This is about Linkara. I don't feel like using some of his clips on his own channel in order to come up with this episode, since a lot of them are on text anyway. And also, um, we are here to analyze, well, part of his career, how he started, where he got the name Linkara, and his part on the Not So Awesome document. There are two parts to that. Would be analyzing the statement he made on his own website, which is atop the fourth wall, and of course the statement he provided on the Not So Awesome document. Because um, I read it, and it's somewhat different from the point of view of the others. It's less about emotion and more about business, which made me view Linkara, or at least the person. His real name is Louis Levag. It made me view him differently all of a sudden. Just I made him view I ended up viewing him differently in a good way. So although there are jokes that have surrounded Linkara in the past regarding his um, preferences, because of him being in a relationship once with Iron Liz. Um, I found an interview of Iron Liz with another podcast entitled Dumping with Scrump. And then, although Iron Liz mentioned in passing that she was once in a relationship with Linkara, the interview ended up becoming more about Jew Wario and the other people at Channel Awesome. That was before she left. So, okay. Thank you very much to everyone watching here. I really appreciate that you came over to watch us. What is happening again? To some of my notes. Oh, okay, I get it. Untold Legends, Linkara. By the way, if you would like to sponsor some of the episodes I'll be doing and some of the future live streams I'll be doing on this channel, I am accepting sponsorships by Gcash. Some of the details are on the description box. It's a pretty meaty description box because you would see the links for the previous episodes we've done here at Untold Legends. Sorry. Oh my god. Okay, so according to fandom.com, there's a fandom section on fandom.com that explained how Linkara started. Because, as we all know, Linkara is the pseudonym used by Louis Jeffrey Luvag. There's a discrepancy on how the name Louis is spelled. Some would name it as Lewis, some would spell it as Louis. So perhaps that's the reason why he used the pseudonym Linkara. And yes, initially on his website, atop the fourth wall, he is a writer. That it was only upon passing an audition or a contest with Channel Awesome that he decided to shift into video. So here, according to fandom.com, and I quote, the name comes from a series of self-published books that he wrote at ages 14 to 19 and subsequently may revisit since he wants to revise them to fix plot problems, characterizations, and various other mistakes he made due to being young and inexperienced. He is also a former contributor for Channel Awesome. Unquote. So at the time, it was 2 days ago when I found this article from fandom.com, and that's how they describe him, because he's more known for being a contributor with Channel Awesome than with his own website. And not always a bad thing, since his niche is pretty specific. So here, he would normally be seated on a sofa. That explains the photo that I used on the thumbnail, since he's always associated with this hat and with this long trench coat. Fandom.com described it as a trilby hat and a brown coat, usually over a charcoal colored t shirt. So to quote Fandom.com, he also sometimes brandished a flintlock pistol, which is fake, and the Green Ranger Dragon Dagger as seen in the TV series Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And the first proper appearance of the pistol was when Linkara introduced himself to the site. After giving a brief tour of his house, which consisted of saying what he was sitting on, Linkara brought out the pistol and ordered the viewer to get out before he shot him. The pistol has made a number of appearances and often referred to as the magic gun. Most recently, it was used as a prop, which suicide prop, which Linkar set on standby should the comic he was reviewing prove to be too much for him. So the pistol's rather dark backstory was revealed in October 2010. Unquote. So that was actually expected of him since he found a niche for reviewing bad comic books, and if a comic book turned out to be way too much for him, then there's the pistol for him to use. So that situation reminded me of the interview that JoeDini had with Comic Book Relief. There was an episode on Legend of the Internet featuring Comic Book Relief. He's not reviewing bad comic books, he just reviews comic books, good and bad, especially the ones that are highly requested. And while webcomic relief is still very much alive, some of the worst comic books he read uh, created a negative effect on him. I'm not surprised. So, going back to the article here, Linkar is notorious for guest starring in numerous other videos. He even guest reviewed with the Nostalgia Critic twice. His numerous collaborations with Spoonie are the most notable of this. On end quote. I'm familiar with the collabs that Linkara did with Spoonie since um, what's his name again? Yeah, Down the Rabbit Hole. The YouTube series Down the Rabbit Hole once covered Spoonie on his series of documentaries. And well, thank you very much to everyone that came over to watch as well. And what happened here? Okay, there you go. Some of the numbers are not adding up right. And that's actually one of the first clips where I saw Linkara and his collaborations with Spoonie. He comes across as this. He looks old school. Uh, he somewhat reminded me of Dick Tracy, except that he's wearing brown. And yeah, he had a pistol. But then again, he's not a detective. He's a comic book reviewer. So here's what made Linkara child friendly compared to other channel awesome personalities, according to fandom.com. So, not many people may agree here, but to quote, unlike other channel awesome personalities, Linkara prefers to avoid profanity in his appearances. When asked about this in a Q&A special, he pointed out that he does swear off camera but avoids the more severe obscene terms on screen to avoid it becoming shock factor, and it later became a habit he stuck with. He also stated that he doesn't feel he can swear gracefully, like other reviewers, such as Nostalgia Critic or the Angry Video Game Nerd, that if he started it, would likely be very jarring to regular viewers. However, he does not mind others who do swear. In one collaborative review, he went so far as to have Bennett the Sage cuss for him when he went on a rant. End quote. So, hey, at least there's an effort to be child friendly there. And I kind of agree there. Maybe that's the reason why some of his videos end up getting recommended to me later on. Although I don't think they're bad comic books, I have yet to see another comic book that I like. But sometimes these negative reviews satisfy an audience. It's like there's this one comic book that is very infamous, and then sometimes they would refer to YouTube or websites like Channel Awesome or Top the Fourth Wall just to confirm their hunch that it is a bad comic book. And the inspiration for these comic books, I don't like how my throat is situated now, but anyway. So in effect, Linkara tried to blog and which was inspired by other sites like Jabotu and the Agony Booth. Both sites are known for reviewing or recapping the worst films and TV shows. And there's a niche for reviewing horrible media. And Linkara tapped on the comic book market, as I mentioned a while ago. Not sure if chances are he got ahead by a few years than webcomic. I should have made some notes to compare the two since I ended up liking JoeDini's interview with webcomic relief. Um, did you still remember the interview we had with webcomic relief, Joe?
Oh, that was a very vivid interview. I
Yeah.
enjoyed that a lot, actually. And from what I can remember, the difference between those two, and we could talk about this later if you want, but I can say it right now.
Mm-hmm.
The whole because we're probably going to bring this up. Sonic Chew, the comic book.
Mm-hmm.
There was a vivid video that Linkara did where he said, and people were scratching their heads when he said this, but apparently Linkara knew about Sonic Chew, was requested to review it a lot, and when I say a
Mm-hmm.
lot, I mean every single comment in the comment section was Sonic Chew, Sonic Chew, Sonic Chew.
Mm.
Then Kara was like, I don't want to review it because I don't want to give it any attention. And then people said, you just gave it attention just by talking about it. Just the fact that you put pictures up on your video, you gave it attention. Now you're just gonna want people. Now you're just making fans want you to review it even more. The thing with Webcomic Relief was he knew about Sonic Chew. He reviewed it and got
Mm-hmm.
exposure from Chris Chan because Chris ended up doing something where she was interacting with him or something, or had like a little interaction with Web Comic Relief. So,
Mm.
I mean, take it however which way you want, but people have felt that it's better to review Sonic Chew just for the simple fact it's like, it's a piece of history. And
Yes.
at least in the internet comic book world, but for Linkara, he was just like, I don't want to touch it. And people was like, but you already touched on it, even if it was for a few seconds. So go further into this comic book hole if you want to.
Yeah, because a lot of people on YouTube are reviewing Sonichu for the sake of views. And then you have this person known for reviewing bad comics, and he must have realized, somebody must have told him that a Christian's autism is not a show, it's real. And he realized that he, he can't fathom making fun of someone's art if in their point of view it's the best that they can deliver, but on the other hand other people review it, so either you can review it or you don't. I end up comparing that with angry video game nerds decision not to review the female Ghostbusters movie, but the mere mention of it ends up getting exposure for them. So
Yeah.
I end up respecting their decision because, yeah, they mentioned it. They just mentioned it. They did not review it. They refused to review it. So there's that.
A lot of times what I've taken from several of these people, including Linkara, one of the things that I try to recommend people to do is if you get a recommendation and you don't want to do it, don't say anything about it. Because eventually, if you mention just a little bit, then you're gonna get some pushback, or you're gonna get some praise, and it may not necessarily be good praise or good pushback. I mean, or it could be great praise and great pushback, because either way, you're gonna be caught. You're gonna be caught into like this. You're gonna be caught in like this feedback loop of your fans like interacting with each other over it. If you don't want to do something, just don't mention it. Don't bring it up. Just
Mm,
move on to stuff that you want to do, because that way it doesn't come off like that. And the more you ignore those type of requests, the less people are going to start. They're going
stop
to stop. They're going
requests.
to yeah. They're going to stop requesting it.
Mm. I think he only mentioned it once. He never mentioned it again, and that's good. He got some cheap heat from it. Well, anyway, I mentioned this off the air about one of the reviews that he made since this was oh, by the way, he made a video about, well, reviewing Civil War, um the comic book version of Civil War, the one that was rather notorious even with the comic book fans, because Civil War, I haven't seen it, and then I'm familiar with the comic book version of Civil War because I am aware of some bloggers like the folks at 411mania.com. Not sure if you're familiar with that website.
Yes, I
Uh,
am.
yeah, maybe you're friends with some of them even. They were complaining how the film version of Civil War was nothing compared to the comic book version. And they make it sound like it's a bad thing. And on the other hand, I've seen the video that Linkara made on the Civil War comic book version, because if his niche includes reviewing bad comic books, then he's free to mention about the things that he didn't like about Civil War comic book version. Since and the good thing that happened there is, like, when I checked the comments, a lot of them expressed relief on how the film version was like an effort to correct the things that the comic book version got wrong. Um, I remember watching that video. I'm coming in blind, by the way, since I haven't read the comic book version, and it made Captain America a hero, and it villainized Iron Man, not in the way that was presented in the film version. They even villainized Maria Hill. It took a while for me to realize who Maria Hill was in the film, because there was this Linkara would be reviewing the comic books. He would be having screenshots of these pages and to emphasize the point that he's complaining about or he's critiquing. And then there's this page on the Civil War comic book series that Captain America argued he superheroes have been in America for the last 100 years. And then Maria Hill replied, "So is polio." And it really rubbed the wrong way, even with casual researchers like me, because how dare you compare superheroes to polio? Like, I is she trying to argue that a lot of good things have been within the United States of America for the last 100 years, that you end up comparing it with polio? It sounded so wrong. That
And
is
she's
one. Yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, like, the idea that she was putting out there is that superheroes are just as bad as a disease. Because the whole premise of Civil War was that we have too many superheroes out there. They're causing all this destruction around the world. We have to try to regulate them in some way. Some superheroes agreed, others didn't. Some even gone as far as to say like the whole Avengers group was just a cancer on the entire society, and that's why she made that comparison, just to give a heads up to people.
So, in other words, She had to use spoiler just to get the point across.
Yes.
That really rubbed people the wrong way. And of course, the other major complaint. There were 15 things that Linkara complained about in the Civil War series, and of course, that's one of the main points, main arguments that stood out. The other one that stood out that a lot of viewers agreed with Linkara was the unmasking of Spider-Man.
Mm.
And it seemed like he was blackmailed into a face reveal because if he did not do a face reveal, Tony Stark would kick him out and his family from the compound. Like, is this why is this why Peter Parker is so loyal to Tony Stark because he had to keep a roof above his family's head? Not exactly his own family, but him and Aunt May, because he can bear to live by the streets, but he can't bear seeing Aunt May live on the streets. So
Yeah.
Spider-Man did the unmasking.
Oh yeah. So I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, even to the point. I mean, they even mentioned this in the movie versions too. Like Tony Stark brought Spider-Man on his team for Civil War because obviously he saw potential in the kid, and also wanted to make sure that yeah, they still had a roof over their head because it wasn't a guarantee that Peter was going to be like this major success.
Mm. Okay, so in other words, in your point of view, it's more like Peter sucking up to Tony Stark because he needed he needed the place to stay. Like some of these movies try to romanticize that. You've seen Infinity. I've seen Infinity War partly. I've seen Endgame, and they were like the Disney version of Spider-Man has no Uncle Ben in it. It's like and the closest thing to Uncle Ben that they could get was Tony Stark. And, okay, it's
Well, the
like
well the thing is with Spider-Man in in the Disney version, they just completely skipped over the killing of his uncle and like how he got his powers. They just immediately like, oh, I got the powers already. Which I don't think people minded because in the previous movie versions that they have done, they've already done that, and people are getting sick and tired of it. So this is like, oh,
mm,
just go right into Spider-Man, and that's what they got. And also the fact that you're saying like they romanticize it, you're right. They romanticize the idea that Tony Stark is a billionaire and he's got
yeah.
all this technology and all this money. And of course, if you're a young kid from if you're a young kid from Manhattan
Mm-hmm.
or from New York City and you barely have any money, and oh my God, you see this you see this billionaire talking with your aunt who he just happens to know, then yeah, obviously
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna be ecstatic to see that.
Mm. Yeah, that's actually a lot of people not comfortable with that angle because, frankly, one of the main reasons why Peter Parker became a superhero was because he felt bad for Uncle Ben's death. Yeah, I've seen the Tobey Maguire version. I still consider it one of the best. It's like each version of Spider-Man has a different goal. Like the Tobey Maguire version, and then the Andrew Garfield version, and then the what's his name again? I'm sorry, I forgot. Anyway, we got off tangent there because if we go
Tom
by the
Holland.
Tom Holland, if we would go by those, it's like changing the point of view of a character, and you have a different version altogether, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, which is why I'm partly happy that I'm partly happy that um, Linkar did not do a video review of the Spider-Man series yet, and I agree with his point of view. He obviously liked Spider-Man too. That he felt bad that Spider-Man had to be unmasked because what for? I mean, just because he was a minor, it's like Linkara even showed the page where Peter Parker said, "I've been Spider-Man since I was 15." Like it might even be an issue because he's a minor. Like there've been that might be the main problem that some filmmakers had with presenting Spider-Man. Like, are we really going to present him as this kid um, who had problems with the bills, and he's he might be the most realistic superhero out there because everyone is worried about the bills, but everyone wanted to be a hero as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, what was it in the first Spider-Man films? They made him out as a college kid or just about to graduate high school, like he was a
Mm,
senior. Like that's the
mhm.
closest they got him as a kid. But in these new ones, yeah, he's still in high school.
Yeah, especially Tom Holland. He can pass off as a high schooler.
Mm-hmm.
I may not know his actual age, but he really looks the part. Anyway, so these video versions of his comic book reviews became inevitable, actually, to quote Thanos, inevitable, because Linkara then shifted to creating vlogs or video blogs after sending a vlog entry to a contest by that guy with the glasses.com. And I can't find any info if you want the contest. And on the other hand, the blogging format worked out for Linkara because yeah, maybe if he it was in written form, and then he would be pointing out the things that he did not like about Civil War, for example, and he would simply be showing the slides. That'd be fine. But on the other hand, you have this vlog format where he's talking in front of a camera, and then there would be some images or screenshots, screen grabs from the comic book itself, showing his point. And I ended up liking it too. I liked it if only I could relate to the other stuff that he had there. It would really be great. And there are a lot of theories I found in the comment section about why the comic book version of Civil War was a mess. I don't think he made a follow up video for that. If ever he did, maybe it's not part of the most viewed videos that I've seen on his channel. So yeah, I would recommend him definitely to everyone who collects comic books to see which may be good and which among your comic books ended up in his list of comic books to review. And with that, yeah, we have that done and over with regarding what he does as a vlogger. Because before he got on YouTube, he was also on Rever and Blip. I'm familiar with Blip. I I saw some of the clips that explained why Blip TV ended. I'm not familiar with Rever.
I don't either. I don't know I don't even know what they cover on that site.
Yeah, because Blip TV is one of those channels that, well, it came around either before or after Google acquired YouTube, and they folded up because one of the biggest realizations about putting up a video site like YouTube is that you need a lot of hard drive space for that, and maybe Blip TV realized they don't, they just folded, which is why
Hmm.
I plan to cover Storyfire soon. I just don't know when.
Oh, good. When you do that, let me know because I'll have things to say. When it comes to Blip TV and YouTube, the reason why Channel Austin went to Blip instead of YouTube was Doug was having trouble keeping his videos up because um, a lot of times his videos would get taken down because he would be using footage from the movie, and
Okay.
because of that, they went to Blip because Blip allowed that to go on. But there was a time, and I think a few years afterwards, Blip got they took down his room review for the simple
Mm-hmm.
fact because he was using footage from the movie, and Tommy was very what's the word? He's very protective of his work and doesn't want anybody to do reviews of his movie with footage in it.
Mm-hmm.
So he decided to go to Channel Awesome. He went to every one of the different creators and said, if you're going to do a YouTube channel, don't come to Blip. Or if you're going to YouTube channel, just make sure you don't use any footage. But your main priority is to have all of your videos on Blip because they treat us better than YouTube does.
Mm. That may be the reason why Linkara ended up having an account with Blip too.
Mm-hmm.
So
It was
a lot of,
required.
yeah, quite required. I just hope that he got a lot of his Blip TV content moved over to YouTube because if it's easy to download. Around that time, video downloading is not yet that in vogue. There are a lot of video based websites out there around 2006 that I know of that allow you to download the content because you own that content anyway. If like it may have been a foreshadowing about how some of these sites might not last the way YouTube did, but yeah, they had to do in order to survive. So we will then move over to the official statement from atop the fourth wall, which is why it's on screen right now. So we'll be reading that later on, or right now, by the way, because he already has commissioned someone to draw his. He did not become a VTuber, but the thumbnails make it seem like he is. But and I find him cute. So here, this was released March 24, 2018, and I quote. It is with a heavy heart that I must announce that I have left Channel Awesome. This was not a decision made lightly, but it has been a decision that has been building for some time. Because this is my show's 10th anniversary, I think it is important to talk about my history with the site and why I have been so reluctant to depart despite the growing number of difficulties in working with it and grievances made by other former producers. I began atop the fourth wall as text reviews because, as far as I knew, that was the way to do recaps and reviews of media, particularly bad media. If you didn't have your own TV show, the only way to get your opinions and quips about awful movies, television shows, and indeed comic books was to write out lengthy essays about them. Then one day on a forum, I discovered the Nostalgia Critic. I learned of this fantastic place called That Guy with the Glasses, where others did their own videos about the media they hated or enjoyed, with videos uploaded to YouTube, Rever, and eventually Blip. And there was just tons and tons of content writing to be enjoyed by an eager, hungry audience. Inspired by this, in particular, the nostalgia critic videos, I set about turning my rantings about comic books into videos. At that time, that guy with the glasses had an open submission policy if you wanted to join. Within only a few days, I was accepted and became part of a larger family. As soon as my videos went up, alongside Fellows and Ed Glasser's Press Start Adventures cartoon, my views increased in massive numbers. I suddenly had an audience, one that grew larger and larger over time. The videos were popular enough within a year or so that I was able to quit my job at Barnes& and Noble and go full-time in making them. Being a video producer has been my vocation and career ever since. Unquote. So that explains the access that he has on a lot of comic books since he used to work at Barnes& and Noble. Are they still up as company?
Barnes and Noble, are they still there?
I don't know because we
Well,
don't
they
have a
are.
branch here. Okay.
They are because we have a
Okay.
branch like we have a branch like 20 minutes away from my house. They're
Okay.
still around. They're just not as prevalent as they used to be because everybody's getting their
Um,
books online.
that explains it. So here, because if you don't have access to that many books or comic books, then maybe You would not end up finding your passion eventually. So, going back to the document here, okay, to quote, I owe my success to being picked up on that guy with the glasses. Sure, talent is one part of it. People would still be watching the show if there wasn't something about it that they enjoyed. But in a world with hundreds, if not thousands, of channels and shows vying for attention from the public, getting that exposure got me a foot in the door that is entirely likely I never would have enjoyed otherwise. I have been incredibly privileged and lucky since then to have this opportunity. Furthermore, joining that guy with the glasses allowed me to meet a plethora of friendly, smart, creative individuals whom I am still proud to call my friends. Despite the problems that have occurred in making them, I still enjoy all of the anniversary movies as their own works and just for the opportunity they gave me on an annual basis to meet with these people, I am still in awe of. They have expanded my interests and my own skills simply by the use of their own, helping me make videos that I hope are not only entertaining but informative about the comic industry and my other passions. In essence, if I have reached wondrous heights, it is only because I stand on the shoulders of giants. I have met incredible fans with wonderful stories of their own, been told that our videos helped them when it seemed like nothing else could. I met my wife thanks to being part of that guy with the glasses, and that is most especially something to be happy about. Unquote. So here's the part where he mentioned about the discontent, and I quote, and that has been a thing that has nagged me at over the last several years. In case you are not aware, there's been growing discontentment towards the leadership of Channel Awesome and its CEO, Mike Michaud. It is not unfounded. The full list of grievances have been compiled into a Google Doc for reference, which you can read here, which we will be reading later. But if you would like a summary, abusive behavior, lies to the contributors, a focus on only the nostalgia critic as opposed to the community of talent that was promised, and many, many other offenses. A few years ago, a group of contributors left the site at the same time, some leaving for their own reasons, but some left in particular because of those actions. At the time, while I was outraged by what had occurred, I wanted to remain optimistic. I believed I could improve things from within, lend my voice to the higher ups of the company to inspire them, and to recapture what had made the site so beloved before. In addition, several new contributors had also then recently joined, just as eager and enthusiastic about being part of the site as I had been several years before. They wanted to be part of this community and work alongside us, and I felt that leaving them would have crushed their happiness and even potentially their own chances for success. And so I stayed and I tried to do what I could to improve things. I failed. Over time, as I grew more and more dejected by this experience, I resolved to simply put out my content, converse with the others on the site to help them directly whenever I could, and collect revenue from my show. Recently, however, it has come to light not just the offenses I was aware of, but even more that I had never been privy to. So many, in fact, that a Twitter thread detailing them went on for 2 days straight of people asking questions and discovering new terrible things that had occurred, that had happened, even at the earliest days of my presence on the site, that I had been completely oblivious of. I have struggled since then about how best to handle my presence on Channel Awesome. I originally elected to leave much later, but at some point during this year, especially after a major milestone in order to give things a clean start feel, but in talking with other producers who have decided to leave, I feel it's best to just do it and get it out of the way. And so here we are. Perhaps I should have left sooner, but these are the choices I've made and will have to live with. Regardless of anything else, I am still happy for the friendships I've made, the work I have done, and proud of being part of the site for as long as I have. I simply wish that things could have been better. While many have scoffed about an aggregate site like Channel Awesome working these days, I do still think there is a potential there. A community of reviewers working together to promote one another and have plenty of pop culture videos and analysis, in my opinion at least, still holds sway, especially if it promotes the brand as a whole and not just an individual. Given my reasons for leaving, please do not take my and others' departures as a sign that you should harass or question those who remain. The simple fact is that I have been incredibly fortunate in that I do not require Channel Awesome to survive. Others may not be as fortunate and rely upon the views they get from the site, or they may just have their own reasons for staying that they do not wish to share. It is their prerogative. All I will say is that you should support the content you love. Much like with the comics industry itself, it's a matter of voting with your wallet, or in this case, with your eyeballs. Thank you for all the continued support. I couldn't do this without you all. End quote.
Well, I mean, I remember when this came out. This was a not a. I mean, this was a big deal because Spoonie and Linkara were considered like the son and the Holy Spirit of Channel Awesome.
The
Whereas,
Holy Trinity.
yeah, Doug was considered the father. But everybody knew at that point that Channel Awesome was mostly just the Doug Walker show. If anybody really honestly thought that people were mostly going to Channel Awesome because of all the other creators, you're kidding yourself, because that's what Channel Awesome was all about. It was the Doug Walker show and anything that he put up. There was not a really, I mean, I've talked about this before. There wasn't a really a lot of traffic to the other channels unless, of course, you were a friend of his, like Spoonie and
Mm-hmm.
Linkara were. You had to have like a close, tight knit relationship with Doug, his brother Rob, and then Mike
Mm-hmm.
Mashad, who was the CEO. You had to have a close personal, and when I mean personal, I mean personal relationship with the bosses in order to be considered a success on that site or to get traffic to your site. If you didn't, then you wouldn't get as much traffic. Then you would probably want to leave. Um, and Linkara figured that out the hard way, especially after the document came out. Um, so I would say, I mean, good for him, because he wasn't going to be featured on their event because Doug was going to go into another direction with Channel Awesome anyway. Nowadays, nowadays, there's anytime you think about Channel Awesome or Nostalgia Critic, it's just negativity. Especially after that Pink Floyd review, that's when people got extremely um, and I don't even want to mention that review because I'm a Pink Floyd fan, but there were people that just could not handle it anymore. And Linkara would have been seen, if he had stayed, he would have been seen as a loyalist, and they wouldn't take him seriously after that point.
Mm.
So he had to do what was best for him, and he made the right decision.
Yeah, it's more of a business decision, especially when he realized that he cannot change things from within, no matter how much eyeballs, how many eyeballs he brought to the company. Yeah, and I had to check out some parts of these documents to see how related are they. So I went straight to the part that Linkara mentioned. And by the way, hello, Madame Ghosty. Finally made it here to the show. Yeah, she was asking a while ago what about the date when Linkara released the statement about leaving Channel Awesome. I replied to that comment. Thank you very much. So here we would be reading the part about Linkara on this document. So here, To quote, I joined up with the site when I had very few reviews, maybe five or six. My meeting with Mike Mashad was at night, or rather very early in the morning. I'd say around 3 or 4 a.m. Central Time. While I admit, in hindsight, it was unprofessional for that to be the case, it wasn't really a problem for me then due to an erratic sleep schedule. After informing me that I was on the site and they enjoyed my early work, I was told of some of the plans for the future of that guy with the glasses. If I recall correctly, even then the plan was to eventually rebrand it as Channel Awesome so that the focus wasn't strictly on Dog Walker's work. Specifically, the plan was to break the site into various satellite websites, the central one for movie and TV reviews, one focused on video games, and one focused on comics and animation, including anime and manga. While I don't think the name Blistered Thumbs existed yet for the video game side, there was definitely no name yet for the comics and animation side. If my memory can be trusted, even back then Rashad was suggesting I could head up that satellite for comics and animation, referred to as inked reality from here on out for the sake of simplicity. The way he described these plans, it seemed like they would be happening in the near future. Since I was young, eager, and enthusiastic about the idea of managing a collection of sites, I started looking for talent. I put together a contest for people to submit their work and made it a private video on Blip so he could review the idea and let me know when we'd be ready to launch. That time never came. Although some change at Blip at one point a few years later released every private video to the public, confusing one or two people who found the video later. While we later came up with the Inked Reality name while spitballing a few ideas, there wasn't really any attempts to advance it at any point. The Inked Reality eye catch featured at the end of the several videos came from Team 4-star member Masako X, who was also doing videos for the site by that point. He liked the idea of a satellite website as well and did the eye catch on his own initiative. While Mashad approved of said eye catch, there still was never any momentum to move the idea of a satellite site for Inked Reality forward, nor any discussion of me potentially running it or anything of the sort. After Blistered Thumbs launched, I did assume that Inked Reality would actually follow at some point. I was unaware of the difficulties Blistered Thumbs was facing until after the fact. By this point, I really had no desire to run Inked Reality because of the amount of time and energy I was putting into my own show. But it didn't seem to matter because, as far as I know, there wasn't any other momentum for launching Inked Reality anyway. Eventually, Blistered Thumbs closed, and I came to realize that not only was Inked Reality likely never going to happen, but that the eye catch was promoting a thing that did not exist, would not exist, and even if it did, it was promoting a website that was slowly losing interest in its producers. I commissioned Masako X to design a new eye catch for my videos that I still use today. Moderator Mismanagement. For a
Mm-hmm.
long while, the channel Awesome Forums only had one moderator, Matthew Buck, aka Film Brain. While others like Mike Rashad had administrative access, they did not handle any day to day moderation in the forums. This grew to be an increasing problem as the site's popularity expanded. More people coming on all hours of the day and some people acting inappropriately or a growing number of bots needed more active moderation to be combated. However, despite several pleas, these requests went unanswered for a time. At one point, I commented on the forum about the lack of moderators and how disappointed I was in that. Unceremoniously and without asking if It was a job I wanted. I was made one of the moderators. Despite my misgivings about being given such a role, I tried to do the best I could to answer incident reports and help Matthew. But both of us were active producers on the side and trying to do our own shows. The fact that Mike thought that I would be the one to solve these woes shows a disregard for the problems facing the forums and for the lives of the people who were told to fix them. Eventually, we convinced them to bring on Dodger of Zion to also act as a moderator. But that was it. I became less actively involved in the forums. It changed anyway during the site transition, so I no longer received reports. The fact that they were unwilling to bring on anyone with seasoned moderator experience from the get go, relying instead on a producer who was doing his own show and was equally not allowed to moderate his own forum section because of an understandable conflict of interest there, who didn't even want the job. It's incredibly unprofessional given their desires for expansions. End quote. I'd give you time to comment on this while I drink.
Okay. Oh boy, and Ghosty is like saying it right here. We really need to assign more moderators. Here, you do it. They wanted to do everything in house. They didn't want to get any outside help. And this is
Mm,
something that Lord Cat has always talked about. It's like it comes off as a fraternity group. It's just a bunch of guys that didn't really have a business plan, didn't really have a good foundation to set things up. They were just flying by the seat of their pants. They were
mm-hmm,
sitting there with their video games or a
mm,
controller in their hand, doing business decisions. And they didn't really have a good sense of like, oh, this is where we want to take the company. It was mostly just, okay, let's try to make people think that we're doing all this stuff so they stay on the channel and we keep getting the money.
maybe. Mm. It's more like they're not willing to hire more people, so they ended up overworking the others, like Linkara. And
It's
yeah, I
like,
mean, look at what Madame Ghosty come today. We really need to assign more
yeah,
moderators. Here, you
here,
do
you do it.
it. Yeah, it's like, I have to agree with that sentiment. It's like you're trying to scream money. You're trying to increase the the profit. You end up overworking the people at the site itself.
It's
You,
like Mr. Krabs saying, "Oh my God, we need more janitors. Here, Squidward, you clean the bathrooms."
oh, I'm familiar with such measures. Oh well, like okay, I think I can continue now. Now that we have, I'm not supposed to be laughing, but you know what? If some of these
It's
practices are
ridiculous.
familiar, yeah, if some of these practices are familiar to you, all you can do is laugh, really. Which is why I ended up focusing on this part the of the document since we're talking about Linkara and we realize the business sense that Linkara has for this industry. So, okay, to continue. Oh, several people left Channel Awesome roughly the same time. Some did so voluntarily, but two in particular did not. Alison Pregler and Phelan Porteous, while the others, Lindsay Ellis, Kyle Calligren, and Andrew Dickman, did so of their own volition, citing various reasons. The other two were different. There was a Skype chat that we used to contact the higher ups and discuss business matters that were relevant to all the producers. It became the fastest method for distributing information for most producers simply because any previous attempts at distributing information had proved unsuccessful or were ignored. Email, direct messaging, Mike Michaud, etc. The business chat was it. When Allison and Phelan left because of the incidents over Patreon, Michaud and Rob Walker organized calls to each other, to each of the producers, rather, I believe they were trying to assuage people's concerns about the site or directly answer questions to people. In the wake of what had happened, I knew there was a general feeling that the site was no longer in its glory days, and that the more optimistic sense of togetherness the site had engendered was going away. Despite my outrage at what had happened, I decided it would be best to try to fix things, particularly for the new producers who had one more recently signed on. After all, many of them wanted to be on the site because it involved working with other producers they had admired, and I didn't want to give the impression the ship was sinking. Uh, end quote. It's like
Hmm.
coming over at the job interview. It's like there are some people handling the job interview. It's like, we don't want the applicants to know that we hate our job. We don't want the applicants to know that working here is getting worse and worse. Like, that's the point of view that I get with. That's the
And
point of view I get.
I know that feeling because I had a job, and when I got hired, I had no idea that people hated it working there. Like I was told on my first day, it's like this job sucks. But my boss and then the guy that hired me, he was like, "Man, I hate this job." I'm like, "Geez, I didn't realize there were that many people that are not happy here."
Yeah, because sometimes you have to get accepted in a job to get an inside look like, on
So
how
I
people treated their jobs.
I can't
Like,
imagine. I can't imagine you trying to be a creator on here, and it's like, yeah, yeah, come on here. You're gonna get all these great benefits. All these people are gonna come to your particular page. You're gonna get all this traffic, not knowing exactly that they're lying to your face because they were told not to say anything about it.
mm, yeah, and that's why Linkara had to mention that because there are a lot of people there that wanted to work there simply because they wanted to work with Nostalgia Critic, with the other producers. Others were fan of Linkara, and Linkara felt responsible for the careers of these people who admired him. They were looking up to him for inspiration. They were like they wanted to follow his lead, and of course, on the part of Linkara, is like I don't want to fail these people. Like on the other hand, he's not in control of things, so hopefully the people that looked up to Linkara end up not blaming him, but blaming those who deserve the blame. So let's just go back here because he outlined a few complaints. It doesn't look few, but well, let's read. These
Yeah.
ideas included improved communication with producers, a dedicated social media person, have the social media link on the sidebar of the site promoting not just Dog's work, but various producers, reduce wasteful spending, opening the Channel Awesome Studio to be rented by other video producers, less charity drives where people are flown out, etc. Bring back the anniversary movies, in particular, paying for them. Through the use of crowdfunding campaigns, the site itself had a successful campaign. The other producers had also launched successful campaigns for independent projects. A larger, more deliberate presence at conventions to promote the site. Release information on what the higher ups at the company do, since there was a perception that Mike Machad didn't actually do anything at the company other than issue orders.
Mm-hmm.
An overall comment system, reduce the amount of advertisements on the site, or at least reorganize the sidebars to promote producers or new videos so it's the first thing people see instead of the ads. You see the business sense I'm referring to a while ago?
Yeah, there's no business model to it. Mike Machad is just sitting in his bedroom with an Xbox controller and Pornhub on the TV, and then just giving out orders while he's jerking off on the phone.
It's so you didn't realize the difference between a boss and the leaders. Like, and this he mentioned this. Not sure if around this time the social media strategies just social media marketing is already a thing, but it's good to know that he mentioned that. And then I don't. I'm not sure if I could bring back the anniversary movies, especially with that scene with Nostalgia Chick, the one with Nostalgia Chick, where he had the drill in his hand, and it was implied that he did something to Nostalgia
Mm.
Chick, and it's like the joke fell flat. And
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm not sure if I
there's
go
even
ahead.
there wasn't even an instance where Lordcat told a story about how like somebody like some one of the guys in Channel Awesome had sex with Lindsay and they were all like high fiving each other like again like it was like a fraternity group. It's like, yeah, I can't believe he did that. Woo, yeah, that's so cool. And
Yeah,
they just came her off as like a whore in a sense.
yeah, I felt bad for Nostalgia Chick at that point because she got objectified and she had to follow the script. And oh god, don't bring back the anniversary movies if you end up coming up with jokes that fall flat on your face. Like,
Mm-hmm.
see, Madame Ghosty said, "Ew."
Right. They have
I find
feeling.
that
Women have feelings too.
yeah, women have feelings. It's like, oh, this is painful.
I like to use this example. How would you
Mm.
feel? And I say this to all the guys. How would you feel if if Lindsay had taken that drill and then just completely cut off the tip?
I don't think they would like that,
Of course they
and
wouldn't.
yeah, it's a bad way to reverse the roles.
Mm-hmm.
And about a larger, more deliberate presence at all conventions to promote the site, I've seen some clips. Well, maybe because I've watched Down the Rabbit Hole where Spoonie was at some conventions and he was with Angry Joe, and I have some clips. Yeah, because I done research on the cinema snob as well for Legends of the Internet, and he had presence on the conventions. It's like this statement about a larger, more deliberate presence at conventions to promote the site. It's more like Linkara did not see the site promoted as a whole. It's like, yeah, you're left on your own devices to promote the site. Like, yeah, Spoonie would promote his part of the site, of course. It would be attending these conventions. Cinema Snob would be promoting his side of the conventions to his side of Channel Awesome at these conventions. And yeah, it's like, where's where's the synergy? And of course, Linkara would be attending these conventions. He would be promoting his part on Channel Awesome, but definitely he'd be promoting more of his website to top the fourth wall because that's his business. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes Linkara's case here in Channel Awesome reminds me why a lot of people are encouraged to have their own website even if they have social media accounts by now. Because if you don't own the website, if you don't have control over the content that you put out, at the end of the day, you have your own website to depend on where you can archive everything that you do. At least you can show people that you have preserved a lot of the things that you've done in the past. So let's see. Uh, Going back to the document here. Okay, to quote, all of these ideas were rejected. Oh God. All of
All
these
of
ideas
them.
all of these ideas were rejected, save for doing more anniversary movies.
And that was like a big ego trip for them.
Oh, although they never truly came to pass, aside for the 10th anniversary, the thing repeated over and over in response to each of these ideas was, it's our site. We'll do what we want.
Yep. This is my company. I'm going to do whatever the heck I want to do, and you can't stop me. Now get out of my way.
Yeah, very sad. Like,
And then they wonder
and
why they lost money.
yeah, I mean, I get the point that they wanted to do this for fun, but fun doesn't always pay the bills.
Yeah,
The more they start.
they can't use that as an excuse when you're bringing on other creators. You're getting
Mm,
monetized on it.
mm-hmm,
You're doing all of this just like because the only reason Doug Walker started this was because he quit his job and he didn't want to be working anymore.
mm,
Same thing with his
yeah.
brother, and same thing with Mike. I mean, they did this just so they didn't have to work, which is kind of like what entrepreneurs do. They start a company because they don't want to work 9 to 5, and then they leave the company once they get bought out, and then they start something new because they refuse to work. So, this is if you're just gonna say okay, there's a difference between when we do this show for fun and when I
Mm-hmm,
do the Legends show for fun, or whenever I get to Naked Spaghetti, the gaming channel, that's gonna be for fun.
mm-hmm.
There's not gonna be a point where we're all just gonna be like, yes, we're gonna all be employees here in this LLC that we just made up. We'll call it Italian Spaghetti Incorporated. And then it's just going to be this entire gaming channel where I'm the boss and I have 3 employees and they're all like creators, streamers. And then we're going to have like a business model where we're going to try to get fans. And there's like, no, we're just going to play the games that we want to play and have fun and make jokes. That's it. But here, this is a company. They have employees. There's a CEO involved. You're bringing other creators on as independent contractors. You can't just say like, "Oh, we're doing this for fun," when other creators are trying to take this seriously because it's their art and they want to try to get more people involved with their art. They want to try to get paid for this stuff. So, I mean, that's why you brought people on here to get more attention to the site in the first place, and you didn't achieve that.
Yeah, because you wanted more content. You want other people contributing to that content that made you famous, and now it's you're not handling it like a business. So yeah, continuing with the statement here, the final point I made to him was that, in light of what happened with Allison's firing, I told Mike point blank that the incident had made me lose respect for him. His answer was a terse, "Okay."
I love that delivery. Like whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Like,
Oh,
yeah, I've lost respect for you. Okay. Mm,
that's all right. I don't care.
yeah. It clearly. Oh my God! I demand more Cheetos, bro. Hey,
Yeah,
who gave us?
Ghosty wants a raise, and she wants more Cheetos per hour. Well, we could work something out, Ghosty. You just have to text me later, and we can work out a deal. We can have a business meeting. We could talk about the fact that you've only been getting 2 Cheetos a video. We
Oh,
could increase that to 5 Cheetos.
oh my God! Too bad I can't. Too bad I can't send you any Cheetos. I mean, I'm outside the U.S. I'm
And if
still
uh,
outside the U.S.
and if you really want to, we can make them the flaming hot Cheetos.
Oh no. Uh, so
See,
far, you
we could
only
do
have.
we could, see we could do a Channel Awesome parody. We could just instead of money, we could just make it Cheetos.
Yeah. Except that I have to find Cheetos that are way smaller, way cheaper here.
Yeah, yeah. Make it like
I,
the smallest Cheeto possible, and then be like, okay, here's your payment.
yeah. Oh.
See,
Oh,
we could
oh.
make a parody video, Jing, and we would be really good with it.
Yeah, it's like, and then we'd be going on either Zoom or Streamy or any platform where we can do that. Like, just don't make me nostalgic chick, okay?
No,
I
no,
still don't like that scene.
no, Gene,
Huh?
you'll be the CEO.
Oh, great. Oh, God. Anyway. Okay, oh, finally, atop the fourth wall movie. Linkara mentioned that too. Okay. deciding, okay, to quote, deciding to make my own movie and fashioning it off the style of the Channel Awesome anniversary movies with other video producers in it, I launched a successful crowdfunding campaign and produced my own film for my web series. During production, as my assistant director and I worked to reduce costs for our budget, I realized that the studio space we needed could be made available by using the Channel Awesome studio. The studio I went with charged $1,000 per day for the use of their space. After 10 days, that naturally came out to $10,000 of a 60,000 budget just for that space. In addition, because of the close proximity of the studio to three of the actors, costs could be further reduced by not having to fly them out to Minnesota, because that's where Linkara is based. I brought this information in my request to Mike Machad and Rob Walker. Rob Walker was amenable to the idea, but Machad flat out refused. His reasoning was thus: it would interrupt the production of the Nostalgia Critic. Someone would need to be with us to supervise us. I would have to get insurance to protect against damage to the studio. These points are all ridiculous for a number of reasons. While production of the Nostalgia Critic could have been impacted, we would have been happy to spend some money to rent the space and make up for any of the lost revenue. The idea was to reduce our own costs, not spend nothing at all. In addition, not every Nostalgia Critic episode requires the use of the studio space. Simpler, less grandiose episodes could be made. Plus, Dog had done Nostalgia Critic for 5 years before without the use of the studio and could simply film somewhere else in a manner that did not interrupt his video production. The idea that we would need to be supervised is insulting. We are all grown adults and do not require someone watching us at all times. It conveyed an idea that we were untrustworthy and could not act responsibly. The studio we did end up renting did not see any need to supervise us, the people who owned and worked in the studio normally, simply staying in the office area to provide any assistance that we requested. End quote. I would have to stop on that part yet because Mike Michaud is a micromanager. Let's get that out of the way.
Yeah, that would be like if you were to say, somebody, "Hey, I'd like to fly out to the Philippines and I'd like to be a part of, I'd like to shoot a movie in Jing Studios," and then you would
If I have a
be,
studio.
yeah, if you had a studio, if you had like this big grandiose major production company, and I came along and I said, "Hey, I want to shoot a movie called, I want to do a Cheetos movie."
Mm-hmm.
I got the Cheetos company to green light the idea that we're going to do a movie on Cheetos, and I want to fly out to the Philippines because you have a good studio, it's cost effective. I can come out there, and you'd say, "Well, I have to have Lawrence watch you." Like for
Mm-hmm.
24 hours straight, even to the point where he has to watch you in your own hotel room if you decide.
No, I will not allow Lawrence to go into the hotel room. Okay, continue.
Yeah, he was like, but what if I had to shower? He would be in the shower with you, just watching your every move. I have to make.
No, no.
I must always be one step ahead. um, but anyway, so it would be like, you would probably go alongside with that. It would just be like, well, it's like, what are you talking about? I just want to shoot a film in your studio. I thought we were friends. It's like, yes, but I need to make money off of our friendship. So
Oh, God, that sounds so wrong.
it is.
See, see, Madame Ghosty is cringing with me. It's like, they're just going to shoot. They're using the studio. Like,
I'm
what
just
else do
using
they
this.
want?
I'm not even in the studio. I'm getting a lunch at a diner. It's like, no, you have to be micromanaged on what you eat. We have to make sure that you're not coming back with any poisoned food.
Oh,
We,
no. Mm.
I'm in the
Yes,
bathroom. Well, we're gonna have him in the bathroom with you. We have to make sure that you're not doing anything suspicious inside there.
I hope Lawrence is not listening to this. He has a tendency to be listening when I least
Hmm.
expect it. But anyway, um, I, I still find that funny because Lawrence, don't do that. Okay,
Yeah.
don't give him that suggestion.
I
Like,
like Ghosty. You can only buy a company approved lunch.
oh no, no, that company approved lunch. That sounds like that K-pop agency telling their
Oh,
pop stars to eat only 800 calories a day. Is like,
yeah.
you're starving them.
Or you can only eat specific salads at the restaurant. Yeah, it would be exactly like this. Like if you think this is like some type of like a joke I'm saying, like it sounds funny, but no, there are very strict people where they will have people do something like this. Like even to the point where they go so far as to be like, "Yes, you have to be in the bathroom with them because we don't know if you're going to try to like poison the CEO by hiding in there with it." So, I mean, this is all trivial stuff, but I mean, they could have gone even further with that if they wanted to. Channel Awesome.
Yeah, and it's like they're they're renting the studio. That's also another point that I like that was mentioned there. It's like they're not asking to use the studio for free. They're willing to pay. They just realize
Yeah,
it's cost effective. I mean,
yeah,
Channel Awesome would be profiting from this. It's like no, it's for company use. It's like um Nostalgia Critic himself is not using the studio. Why won't you let other
yeah,
people use it?
yeah.
And you're paid for it.
And the insurance one. I mean, that's a legitimate concern, to be honest. Like, if you have insurance on that studio, or if something happens, if you didn't have insurance in the studio, and somebody got hurt, you would be the Channel Awesome would be liable for all the injuries that happened in that studio
Mhm.
because they own it. If they didn't have insurance, then that would be something. So I mean, because that could be a legitimate concern, and that's even something Linkara brings up because it's like, oh, that's not unreasonable. I mean, I can understand that. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, but I would try to make sure that there's like a compromise that we can end up doing. Like maybe I can get insurance for the entire production, so that way I don't have to work, so that they don't get liable for anything that happens. I mean, that's I mean I can agree with that part, but
Mm-mm.
everything else just sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, because here they have successfully raised $60,000 for the budget for this anniversary movie for Atop the Fourth Wall and $10,000 for 10 days. Like, he did not mention anymore how big this space is, but I don't know if that's too expensive for you. I live in a different country. We have a different definition or different measurement for what is expensive for rent or what is cheap or what's reasonable. Because $1,000 a day,
That's a
is that
lot.
even fair? It's a lot. Yeah, it's like, um, and yeah, Linkar realized it at that time too. And this was in 2018. Chances are some studios may have jacked up their prices because of this thing we cannot name. um, and he's trying to find a way to save money. Yeah, it's more of a trust issue. Okay, so here. However, the fact that Michelle was not even willing to humor the idea or discuss it any further demonstrated an unwillingness to work with us, compromise, or negotiate to make things easier. Unquote. I view that as a part where Mike Michaud does not like being told what to do, and Linkara comes across as one of the people that has been giving him advice, and he doesn't appreciate the advice.
Yeah, I mean, even taking the simple thing. I mean, this is a thing that I have found with most CEOs, quote unquote. They like to be in control of their own destiny.
Mm-hmm.
They certainly don't like giving up that control, because if they did, then that's a sign of weakness in their minds. It's the same thing with Tommy. It's the same thing with Vince McMahon and WWE, who owns that
Mm-hmm.
company. They all have that same mentality. It's like they're control freaks. They want to be able to make sure that they micromanage every single little detail of every single part of their company. Like, there's the old adage that a lot of bosses say is like, I know the nuts and bolts of my entire company. And for a lot of people, that could just be too much to handle, because you're being handcuffed pretty much. And Mike specifically did this to Linkara.
Yeah, it's like I know this is an unpopular opinion, but what's so special about Nostalgia Critic that a lot of the content is centered around him?
It there, there's nothing. I mean, he's an internet
Yeah.
celebrity, but what does that amount to? I mean, the idea of celebrities is even like people. I mean, I know people still like brave about celebrities, but it's not like this guy was on the Tonight Show or Saturday Night Live. I mean, if he was on SNL, that would probably be a huge deal. But
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, and I don't under yeah, that's why I still remember that episode that you did on Nostalgia Critic and all these Patreon tiers. Like, what are these rewards? Like, are they even worth the the price that they are posted on Patreon? It's like, dude, you're not doing it to satisfy your fans or provide or solve or provide relief, to say the least. You're just doing it for your ego. On the other hand, we have here Linkara. He's trying to be at least a father figure to some of these content creators, and he ended up being showed the door. Well, not directly, maybe, but the kind of behavior that Mike Michaud really pushed Linkara to leave. That it was, I actually appreciate that he separated the official statement from atop the fourth wall to the one that he posted or contributed to the not so awesome document. It's more of a business thing for Linkara. It was an ego thing for Mike Bishop. They obviously do not meet. They are not on the same page. Linkara had to go. And at least Linkara had a fallback. He had his own website.
Yeah. At least he was smart enough to get his own website, which is a
Mm.
good idea because you have no idea if Twitter or Facebook's going to kick you off for saying something stupid.
Correct. Which is why I think the other, the only other content creator I know of that has his own website was Spoonie. It was the forums. It was mentioned in the Down the Rabbit Hole episode, wherein it became a shell of its old self because Spoonie's mental health, it's like he gave up. I think that's what happened to Spoonie. He's not dead. He has not killed himself, thankfully. But it's like he stopped trying.
Yeah. I mean, there's a point where it just gets too tiring and you just don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, and he never got out of that burnout phase. Like, Ninkar had a burnout phase. He, it's implied on the not so awesome document. It's implied more on the not so awesome document than on the statement at his own website, since the website obviously focused on what Linkara is known for, which is comic book reviews. And I would just read here what Ghosty said. If someone really cares about a company they've created, they'll do what's best for it, even if it something wasn't their idea, right? Yeah,
Mm, yeah, but no.
yeah, because Mike Michaud obviously have a different idea on what would make, or at least what he thought would make channel awesome, and it's not. So you have these bosses that are either taking credit for everything that their employees did, or they would kill that idea because it's not theirs and they will not get the
Yes.
credit.
Yes. That's what it mostly is.
Mm,
They want to be
and it's
seen as the hero. I'm the one that made this company and I should get the praise. Put up the golden statue of me in the corner of this company and I will be remembered as a god.
mm, no.
But that's what goes on in their minds, a lot of these people.
Yeah, because I've read the that's I think that's the unifying theme that I see on the Not So Awesome document. It just so happened that Linkara's side was more of a business side, less of an emotional side, which is good. And it really comes across that he's a control freak, and the guy that really ended up getting the brunt of the control freak tendencies of Mike Machado was Nerd to the Third Power. I felt bad for Nerd to the Third Power because he kept getting told that his content's not good, that nobody listens to him, nobody cares for him. Like, then why did you include him in your website? If you treat him like dead weight. On the other hand, he ended up treating everyone else like dead weight. So yeah, they snapped one day and left. And if, for example, Linkara leave Channel Awesome, he has his own website, he has his own following. He, let's get blunt with this. People don't follow websites anymore. People don't follow companies anymore. They follow people.
Yeah, it's the same thing with sports. Like they don't really are. They're not really like fans of the team per se. They're fans of the actual athletes on the team. And once that athlete leaves, they'll become fans of that team over there.
Mm. So yeah, control freaks don't make successful things, according to Madame Ghost. You have to agree with that because if it's more about control and less about what can actually be profitable for the company, find a way out of that company because you will not be appreciated for the efforts that you have. Sometimes all you ever needed was someone to appreciate your efforts, and they become a group, they become a fan base, so to speak. Then yeah, you'd be more inspired to do what you love. And Linkar has captured an audience that is not covered by anyone else. Their channel awesome, and I highly respect for that because sometimes you don't need to focus on the bad media. Sometimes there's still some things that are bad there, but they're not that important. Maybe it would make a ripple or a wrinkle in the story. But sometimes when you come across as honest, just pointing out some flaws of a company or this comic book or whatever that might lead to something better, yeah, you really have to do it. So in the case of Linkara, he really tried to help everyone, and everyone here in this document really looked up to him. And I don't know if other people in this document ended up contributing their own stories after they learned that Linkara shared his story as well. It's like someone high profile in your niche, for example, your industry, shares his story. All of a sudden, everyone else shared their story too. It's like, as what we were taught, it's like something happened. Okay, this person said that this happened. And then this other person said that this happened. And then this other person said that this happened. And they're not really related to each other. And sometimes they don't even know each other, but they have similar stories. So that's when you really start thinking, yeah, they did not discuss this with each other, and there might be some truth to it. And that might be the reason why the Twitter thread that Linkara mentioned in his farewell message came about, because everyone has these stories. Everyone has these misgivings about this person or about this culture that was going on. And how come nobody's listening to them? It's like the moment someone high profile takes their side and would end up having stories of their own that are similar to theirs, yeah, expect social media to explode.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just happy that Linkara has found success in his YouTube channel or in his website as well, because I really enjoy seeing the new thumbnails that are used on his newer videos. He's still reviewing comic books, maybe not necessarily the bad ones, if the titles used on the videos would be based. And I think I can remove this now. I'll just sometimes my mouse pointer is missing, and I have to go ahead with this.
And
So yes, you were saying?
um, I totally forgot.
It's okay. Yeah, because you then realize why Linkar is a highly respected individual here, because he had the business sense. He could have steered Channel Awesome to better direction, but obviously under his guidance it will no longer be focused on Nostalgia Critic, and I consider that a good thing because I may not be that familiar what happened to Blistered Thumbs. I'm just sad that a website that was associated with Channel Awesome did not get launched simply because people were confused. Then they saw teasers for Inked Reality, and then everyone was confused. Like, what is this for? And that's how messed up the company is. It's like that's how disorganized this company is. It's like they have a lot of these trailers, they have a lot of these teasers, they have a lot of these material, and I will not be surprised if Masako X got paid for doing the eye catchers for Linkara. I think that's his term for teasers because
I don't know.
sometimes you get the best out of what you pay for, and Linkara is one of those creators that are willing to pay. And like I suddenly remembered how people were requesting for Team Four Star and haven't watched enough of their films, their videos yet on YouTube. They have their own channel on YouTube, and if they end up having a lot of contributions or collaborations with Linkara, I think I would have to check them out. Although Team Four Star's niche is a lot more focused. Well, at first they seem a lot more focused, but it's like they're reviewing video games, for example. I know this. I know this episode's about Linkara, but I will just mention some things about Team Four Star. It's like they're playing God of War, and the person reviewing God of War was doing it in the voice of Vegeta.
Like an abridged version.
Yeah, like oh, this sounds like an angry review. Then again, Vegeta is always angry. If you're familiar with Dragon Ball.
Ain't
Uh,
that the truth?
yeah, and that's why in Team Four Star, it's the Vegeta reviewer that ends up a lot with these with these fans. He had a lot more fans because he had a hilarious way of reviewing video games. Like, well, in the case of Linkara, at least he has stuck to his guns, pun intended. He has stuck to his guns and focused on comic books and just focus on being just an overall guy who meant well. You still haven't found your idea yet?
And it still doesn't. Uh, oh, man. I've gone over this topic for years, and
Oh, okay.
it just doesn't seem like every time you go back to every time we go back to these channel awesome people, it's still baffling the way that they ran this place, and even Linkara to a certain point. I mean, I know he was accused of things, um, he wasn't always he wasn't always considered the angel of the group. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but in a lot of ways, he was trying to help out with the just trying to help out at least. Um,
Mm.
the one thing I will mention, and I don't know if you caught this, but Linkara did an irate gamer parody.
No, I haven't encountered that.
Okay, so there's an infamous Linkara video where he reviews a comic book. It's a good comic book, but he parodies it and he's like, what is this comic? Like, I can't read what's on this page." Because what's wrong with the colors on here? Like the colors look terrible. This is the worst comic I ever read. Why is this in black and white? Like he just parodied Irate Gamer and then did this whole epic thing where he's reading the comic and he's like, I'm gonna read this comic and I'm gonna try to get through this awful, awful thing. And it's mostly just a Superman comic that's considered one of the best.
Yeah, because I'm a little familiar with irate gamer since I've checked out some of the clips involving him and accusations of plagiarism. So Linkara parodying irate gamer might be up his realm because it's like, what if irate gamer reviews a bad comic and this is what happens? Like, um, it's like he has a limited vocabulary. I don't know if you noticed that about irate gamer. Like, it's easy to say that this sucks, or this is bad, or this is horrible. Like, can you please just explain what made it horrible?
Mm-hmm.
You know? Although, of course, that's a character that was successfully created by, or that was successful. What the hell? That was successfully created by. Oh, there you go. Okay, I'll check it out later, Joe.
Okay.
That was successfully made by John Rolfe, aka the Angry Video Game Nerd. But at least he would go as far as providing screen shared uh, clips of the game that he was playing at that time that he was reviewing. And then this happened. Then uh, it's not. I'm fine with some people copying formats because a format can be copied, but you go as far as plagiarizing things. I don't think that would really sit well with the fan base of the person you are accused of plagiarizing because I've seen some. I'm I'm familiar with some comedians who got called out for plagiarized content, and the moment they stop plagiarizing, they don't have much to offer anymore when it comes to stand-up comedy.
Yeah. Like what Dane Cook went through that. I mean,
Yeah.
they even Louis C.K. show. They even had a real life conversation in a fictionalized TV show.
Mm-mm.
They were playing fictionalized versions of themselves, having a conversation about stolen jokes, and it was probably that was a
Mm-mm.
really good scene.
And I am more familiar with Ellen DeGeneres interviewing Amy Schumer
Mm-hmm.
about, and some people just realized that did Amy Schumer just steal a joke under Ellen's nose? Like, that bit about the popcorn, and Amy tried to change the wording of that joke and it still came up wrong. That's how it goes. So, yeah, sorry if we shifted a little bit with that content here because sometimes when you're running out of ideas, really, either you copy formats or you copy word by word certain aspects. Like, I'm just happy that webcomic relief and Linkara are different from each other. It's like, not that Linkar is not that Linkar is discriminating against the better ones, because it's just that in his part he can only judge comic book if it's bad or good after reading it. At least he did his due diligence of reading it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like it's like these other content creators on YouTube saying that Sonic is the worst comic book series ever made. or webcomic series ever made without even reading it. And for me, I read only volume one so far. I don't feel like moving forward beyond volume one. I'm sorry, I have to keep myself sane.
I,
You
I
know.
already, I already, I already took care of that for you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Like. Yeah. There's some things I'm not willing to talk about because I'm taking care of my sanity. And I just saw which among the previous episodes got limited ad suitability. And like, yeah, I'm fine. I'll just talk about it here. It's still part of the portfolio anyway. So there. Those are my thoughts about Linkara, and I'm not familiar with some of the accusations, or maybe I'm not familiar with the accusations because he got associated with these people in the document here, and more of the not so nice things were said about Morse girl.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of things that are said about her that are not exactly nice, especially during the Vic Mignogna issue. I'm not sure if I would be discussing that in a future video. I've discussed that in my own podcast, the Writing Jing podcast season one. The case of Vic Mignogna was my season finale there. I'm not sure if I'm willing to talk about it again, especially now that um, it's it's getting dragged on and on. Like I might wait for another year just to see some progress happening. That or I'm not getting enough credible search results on my end. Okay, so I know you've said a lot of things about the not so awesome document about Channel Awesome as a website itself. Do you still have any final thoughts left to share before I close this episode?
Um, no. Everything I said was mostly just what I said in the episode.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because I'm already preparing for the season finale of Untold Legends Season 2.
Oh
It's
boy.
also one of the highly requested episodes, and we will be using audio. So we will be reacting to it live. We would I have some notes saved from the Encyclopedia Dramatica page of the next subject that we'll be covering for the season finale. And I needed more research on that because you do know how Encyclopedia Dramatica took these guys personally. They ended up with a profanity laced Wikipedia article
Oh yeah.
about them. Yeah, and
You want to
yeah,
talk about a war?
yeah. So for that finale, we would be discussing Sons of Kojima, one of those hate groups that rose to infamy, well, more to infamy, not only because they did nothing but talk about Dark Side Phil, but because, speaking of control freaks, we have another control freak to discuss about. And I may not be sure if Sons of Kojima still existed. Some people say that the group is dead, but if some members of that group is still trying to resurrect the group as a whole, then yeah, maybe. Because a little teaser about Sons of Kojima. Oh Lord, I'm ready! Thank you very much, Madam Ghosty. Yeah, because a little spoiler about Sons of Kojima. Because if you run out of things to talk about Darkseid Phil, what else are you left to talk about?
Barely anything else.
Yeah, barely anything else. And we would be analyzing the things that they did on the next episode of Untold Legends Season 2. And we'd be looking forward to have you with us. That would be a special episode. If I have a feeling it will have a volume 2 because of there's it's weird that it's their haters that end up preserving a lot of the recordings that we will be reacting to. And we're talking about leaked recordings, so yeah, that'd be great.
Great. We're gonna hear some things that be like, what the heck is this going on here?
Yeah, 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 that happened. Like, okay, so I would So that would give you an idea what we'll be talking about, what be reactions, and be ready for a two-parter for our season finale of Untold Legends Season 2. Thank you very much for joining me and JoeDini. Thank you everyone who stayed with us until the end. And we'll be seeing you on the next episode of Untold Legends Season 2 every Saturday, 9 p.m. here on YouTube. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.